So, we all know the basics of flying, right? You've got your turns, your climbs, your descents. But what's the real difference between someone who just operates a plane and someone who truly flies it? Well, today we're diving into the advanced maneuvers that are said to turn piloting from a science into a genuine art form. It's a question that really gets to the heart of aviation. Is it just about the number of hours you've logged or nailing every single landing? Or is it something deeper? The answer, really, is in developing this almost sixth sense for the aircraft, where it stops feeling like a machine and starts feeling like an extension of your own body. And that, right there, is where these performance maneuvers come in. And look, these aren't just flashy tricks you pull out for an air show. Oh no, they are the training ground. Kind of like the crucible where a pilot forges that deep subconscious bond with their plane. So let's dive in and take a look at the four big trials every pilot faces on their path to true mastery.
First up, we have our first trial, the steep turn. Now, on the surface, it sounds pretty simple, right? Just a really tight circle in the sky. But in reality, it is a huge test of a pilot's precision when they're under some serious physical and mental pressure.
So what's the point? Well, the whole objective is to sharpen a pilot's smoothness, their coordination, and just their overall awareness. It forces you to manage a whole bunch of different forces all at once, all while trying to hold a perfect arc in the sky while every instinct in your body is screaming that something is very, very different. And believe me, that pressure is no joke. When you're in a 60-degree bank, you're pulling a load factor of 2.0 Gs. What that means is you and every single bolt on that airplane feel like you weigh twice as much as you normally do. Every movement is an effort, and your senses can get completely thrown off. And on top of those G-forces, you're wrestling with the plane's natural urge to just keep rolling deeper into the turn. Your stall speed, the speed at which the wings stop flying, has jumped up significantly. The controls feel heavy, and you're trying to do all of that while keeping your altitude absolutely nailed to the foot. It is a serious juggling act.
And this is where that need for perfection just becomes crystal clear. The most common mistakes are the things that sound the simplest. You gain or lose altitude, you let the bank angle get sloppy, or you just get plain disoriented. To master this, you have to master the core skill of making the airplane do exactly what you want it to, no matter what forces are working against you. Okay, so you've built up that precision. For our second trial, we're going to add another critical layer, composure. The steep spiral is all about testing a pilot's control during a simulated emergency.
Just picture this for a second. Your engine quits. You look down, and there's a perfect field to land in right below you, but you're way too high to just glide down to it. The steep spiral is the tool that lets you drop that altitude fast, but in a controlled way so you can land safely on your chosen spot. This is a maneuver that could literally save your life. And of course, even in practice, safety is everything. You absolutely have to finish this maneuver no lower than 1,500 feet above the ground. Why? Because that gives you a critical safety buffer, plenty of time and altitude to recover and set up for a normal landing approach. But this isn't just some simple corkscrew down to the ground. Oh no, the real test here is the wind. As you're spiraling down, you have to constantly, and I mean constantly, adjust your bank angle, making it a little steeper when the wind is at your back and a little shallower when you're turning into it, all to keep that perfect circle over your spot on the ground. So it's probably no surprise that the number one mistake pilots make is failing to correct for that wind drift. This whole maneuver demands total situational awareness. It proves you can control the airplane's path precisely, even when things have gone wrong and the pressure is on. All right, on to our third trial, the Chan delay. Now, if the steep spiral was all about getting rid of energy in a controlled way, the Chan delay is the exact opposite. This is an elegant, powerful test of energy management, turning your speed directly into altitude. The goal is actually pretty simple. You do a 180-degree turn, and in the process, you gain the absolute maximum altitude you can squeeze out of the airplane. Just think of it like a graceful U-turn in the sky, trading all your forward momentum, your kinetic energy, for height or potential energy, as efficiently as you possibly can. The real beauty of the chandelle is how it's structured. It's broken down neatly into two halves. For the first 90 degrees of your turn, you hold your bank angle perfectly steady while you're constantly pulling the nose up, up, up. Then, right at that 90-degree halfway point, you freeze that high nose attitude and begin to smoothly roll the wings level during the final 90 degrees of the turn. You can just imagine the amount of finesse this takes. If you pull up too hard, you'll stall the plane. If your timing is off, you'll finish the turn way too fast and you won't have gained much altitude. This maneuver teaches a pilot to really feel the energy of the aircraft and manage it perfectly through a pretty complex dance.
And that brings us to the final trial, the Lazy 8. People often call this the ballet of the skies, and honestly for good reason. It is the ultimate test of pure, fluid, non-stop control coordination. It really combines every single skill we've talked about so far into one beautiful maneuver.
You know, there's a description in the official flight training handbook that I think just paints the perfect picture. It says you should think of the nose of the airplane like a pencil, and you're using it to trace a giant symmetrical figure eight lying on its side against the canvas of the sky. You're not just flying, you're drawing. Now, to master something that fluid, pilots rely on a few key reference points. At 45 degrees into the turn, your nose should be at its highest point above the horizon. Then, at 90 degrees, your wings are at their steepest bank as the nose slices right through the horizon. At the 135-degree point, the nose is at its lowest, before you gracefully pull back up to finish, wings level at the 180-degree mark, ready to do it all again in the other direction. And here's the real kicker. Here is what makes the Lazy 8 the ultimate test. In most other maneuvers, you might set a control input and hold it for a bit. Not here. In a Lazy 8, nothing is ever held static. The pressures you're putting on the stick and the rudder pedals are constantly, smoothly, and endlessly changing. The pilot has to feel and anticipate every single input. So, after all of that, after the pressure of the steep turn, the composure of the spiral, the energy management of the chandelle, and the pure fluidity of the Lazy 8, what's the reward? What does a pilot actually get for all this hard work? This quote gets right to the heart of it all. The whole point is to move beyond thinking about flying. Through all this intense practice, the physical mechanics become second nature. They become subconscious. You're no longer thinking, okay, I need to add a little right rudder here. You just do it. You feel it. You and the airplane are acting as one.
It's a total transformation. You go from being a person operating a machine to something so much more integrated. It's that state of flow where pure skill finally becomes art. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. At that level of mastery, where does the machine actually end? And where does the pilot begin?